Welcome to the Soundtrap Education Summit, a free online event dedicated to empowering and amplifying student voice with the theme, Their Voice, Their World. We're bringing you inspiring and practical messages from musicians, educators, podcasters, students, and more that can help you make change in your classroom right away. I'm Matt Miller, author of Ditch That Textbook and the moderator of the summit. Our sponsor and host of the summit is Soundtrap, a collaborative and creative audio editing platform. Soundtrap for Education empowers students and teachers to explore creative sound recording in all subjects, for all ages, and in all ability levels. And you can sign up for their free online course to learn how to bring music and podcasting to your classroom at academy.soundtrap.com. And in this video, we're going to be talking about something that I know pretty much every single student is interested in. And of course, that is music, but more specifically, songwriting. And what is so cool about the group that you are going to get to see today is that all of these folks, except for this guy, but all of these folks have experience with songwriting, and they can see the power that it can have in education. And so that's really what we're going to be talking all about today. So Rowena Atkins, Wayne Watts, and Scarlet Billham, thank you all so much for joining. And let's go ahead and do some quick introductions, shall we? Rowena, why don't you take it first?
Thank you, Matt, and it's great to be here. So my name's Rowena Atkins, and I am an entrepreneur and a mother of three, 18, 17, and 12-year-olds. And I started Song Academy, which uses songwriting to help every child find their voice. We run songwriting clubs, workshops, inside, outside schools, and the Young Songwriter Competition. So that's me.
Excellent. Very good. All right, let's keep going around the screen. So Scarlett, why don't you go ahead and take it next?
Hi, my name's Scarlet Billham. I work for Rowena's wonderful company, Song Academy, so I'm one of the tutors there, and I lead the songwriting groups with the kids, but I'm also a singer-songwriter myself, and I perform under my artist name, Hadara, so I have both sides.
Yeah, excellent. Very good. And Wayne, how about you?
What's up, y'all? My name is Wayne Watts. I'm a father, activist, artist, co-founder of the Dream Create Inspire Tour. We do songwriting workshops across the country. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Okay. So I think a great place for us to start with all of this is let's just start out by talking about the power that songwriting can have, especially in the lives of young folks. And, because I know that, you know, all of you have your own stories when it comes to that. So let me kick it right down below me to Wayne. Wayne, do you want to take this one first about the power that songwriting can have?
I mean, songwriting holds so many powers, right? So, I mean, you can think of goal setting is within songwriting, right? Like if you think of hip hop, right? Like a lot of records have manifestations in them of like what you want to do, what you aspire to do, right? Like, and it also then holds the power of your story and being able to honor your story. It also holds the power of honoring those who've passed within it. So it gives you this opportunity to honor the past, to be mindful of the present, and to dream futures that don't look like what your neighborhood looks like. So I would say songwriter holds limitless powers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Scarlett, how about you?
Yeah, I just second everything that Wayne said, but also I feel like songwriting is a way of expressing how you feel. And I know a lot of kids can be, especially when they're younger or even getting into that strange teenage age that we've all been at, you can kind of hold things in and inhibit yourself. But it's a form of expression and almost like a little therapy session sometimes for them, just to be open and be able to say things they might not feel comfortable talking about through song. Yeah, and it, like goal setting, like Wayne said, and it's just a form of expressing themselves and that sense of achievement once they've written a song. It's like, yeah, it's amazing to see.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Rowena?
Well, I'd add to that in that I think from what I've seen with kids that come to Song Academy, I think, you know, they get loads of stuff in their heads, you know, worries, concerns, anxieties about themselves, what's happening in the world around them. So their heads are absolutely chock-a-block with with all these thoughts. And I think songwriting can really free them of all those sort of anxieties. And, when they put pen to paper, there's an amazing quote by Frank Zappa, an American songwriter. And he said, the mind's like a parachute, it's not going to work if it's not open. And so I think everything we can do to kind of get all those thoughts and feelings onto paper, and for them to feel that other kids feel the same thing and they're connected to the world around them, I think is a great thing.
Mm-hmm. Right, absolutely. And so I was hoping that maybe we could talk a little bit, and we've kind of talked about this in generalities a little bit, but as far as kind of like empowering students, and we can take this in the just young people in general, and we can take this in the classroom setting, we could take this outside of the classroom setting or whatever. I wondered if you could speak just a little bit to the impact that it can have and the changes that it can have with students, with youth, with really just about anybody. Let's go around in the opposite direction on this one. Rowena, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen a main thing being confidence. Yeah. So confidence in who they are, what they stand for. So confidence when they're, with their friends, standing up for things that are important to them. Confidence in their drama class when they're performing. Confidence, and also creativity. How they think about things and connect things, and how their brain works. I think the rigor of songwriting, the practicing of being creative and putting words together, lyrics, music together is a brilliant skill, and a skill that's really important in shaping their future.
Mm-hmm. Right, absolutely. Scarlet?
I think a lot of kids, especially in a school setting, some don't enjoy the academic side of it. So having music or songwriting lessons is, again, like Rowena was saying, it's letting that creativity flow out of them. And I feel like it's empowering for them across the board, because they know that's the one place that they feel totally confident and comfortable in, and they can be themselves. And I feel like what's also awesome about songwriting is there's no right or wrong to it. So like if you're in like a math exam or something, there is a right and a wrong answer, but with songwriting it's so freeing, and the kids can just like grow in confidence, grow within themselves, and it just makes them feel like, with some of the kids that I teach, that's their sense, that's their place, because they might not fit in like the English lesson, they might be struggling a bit more or whatever, and that's the place where they can really be freeing in themselves. And it's just like, it's hard, like writing a song and putting music to it and coming up with melodies, like it challenges your brain in a whole different way. And I think the sense of achievement that they get from it is wonderful to see, and it's something that they can take on in the rest of their lives, even if they don't want to get involved with music eventually. And they, like Rowena was saying, they go into drama class, it gives them the confidence there, because they've had that one place where they know they can be 100% and they feel 100%. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love that. Absolutely. Wayne?
Yo, to hop in on that, I would say like songwriting takes the opportunity to take learning that's been abstract, right? A lot of times in education, like it's abstract. So it's like I picked up this one lesson from English or geometry, but songwriting gives you a chance to apply it and integrate it together, right? So it also provides a place for students to show assessments of learning in. So you may think a kid may not have known this concept, but when they put it within a song and how it's structured, it gives you a chance to say, oh, that's brilliant. Like, how did you take that analogy of this, your timetables, and apply that to a current event and apply that to, a scientific method thing. So songwriting gives you a chance to show what knowledge looks like when it's connected and not just abstract. And the melody of it, making it sound dope to pass that lesson on to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'd love for us to kind of hang on that idea for just a second. This is the thing that I'm going to be personally so fascinated in, is to see how what you all have done with songwriting applies within the classroom. And so let's hang on that whole like assessment thing where students can show what they know. And Wayne, just like you said, be able to even pass it on to other people. I can't tell you how many times in my own class when I taught high school Spanish, we just put something to a little beat, and it was so simple. And it just locked it into your brain, you know? And especially like you were saying, whenever, you know, whenever they make it something that they're proud of, now that kind of takes it to a whole different level. And so I wondered if we could kind of take some turns bouncing this idea around. If in sort of a regular classroom setting, or even in like a music class, how can we use songwriting so that students can show what they've learned or what they know, or even what's important to them? And Wayne, since you were the one who sort of started with that, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so like I would say, so showing your knowledge in it, I would say you can assign it as a test. You can assign it as a quiz. So, you know, instead of, you know, signing a paper, especially in these times right now, right? Like, I mean, who has time to write a 3-page paper in the middle of COVID? You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
So like, instead of assigning something as boring as that, hey, have the quiz be I need a 30-second melody with, you know, an 8-bar verse that's teaching whatever concept that you want in your class, right? Like, so you can have it be off of that, you know what I mean? And then also having them teach the class, you know, in these digital settings to pick up the hook, but also, hey, not only did you pick up the hook of the verse, were you able to then incorporate the principles to pass that on so people understand the subject at hand? You know what I mean? So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, I love that. Rowena or Scarlet, do either of you want to take that?
Yeah, can I just, I think one idea, sorry, Scott, one idea springs to mind. I think, you know, I can see classrooms having kind of like rap battles, you know, on, you know, if you're in a history class or geography class, you know, have 2 groups, or, you know, everyone takes turns just to do a rap with a beat on a particular topic. Because I think, you know, with songwriting in a certain structure, you know, it has some confines, but when you have rap and just you have the easy flowing beat, it's kind of, you can get more information in, and just makes it more fun and more alive and, you know, more engaging to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Wayne, I just saw your face light up when she was talking about rap battles, man. What do you think?
No, so here's what I'm gonna say. So shout out to I want to say shout out to Swiss and Timbaland for putting together Versus. If you guys don't know what that is, check it out. So Versus is essentially opportunity where legends in music have been doing battles. So like Patti LaBelle and Gladys Knight had a battle last week. Whenever y'all see this, it's still going to be the dopest one. But it's a bunch of people that did that. But you can take the formula of, you know, 2 top musicians having great catalogs battling against each other. You can do that within your classes, right? So you can take like Shakespeare versus Thoreau, you know what I'm saying? Or you can take algebra versus geometry in terms of like which used more outside of the classroom. So take, you know what I mean, that part of it, and you're still taking the core of battles, right? So shout out to like, you know, Smack DVDs and Smack and URL for all of them having those platforms in terms of battles. You can take those principles and apply it to make your curriculum dope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Scarlett, let me kick it over to you. You can, I mean, follow up on that if you want to, or take it a whole different direction.
No, I mean, yeah, I just agree with everything that everyone's saying, but I feel like a lot of what I do with this within the Song Academy lessons also is we incorporate a lot of English. Obviously, like I know that the kids have to do, from I remember when I was at school, like, oh, I come up with a poem or a rhyming couplet and blah, blah, blah. And we do that a lot for the kids to start writing lyrics. We say, okay, write whatever you want and just try and make the ends of the words rhyme. So I feel like that's a really good way, like in an English lesson, if a teacher's like, okay, you have free reign, go ahead and write what you want, then you get so much more from the kids. So we try and get that in. And even like playing like the word association game, I think that's a really, like, we do that within our songwriting lessons to spark up ideas and conversations and like, oh, okay, you've taken it that way and you've seen it this way. So I feel like that can also be good as like when you're debating something within, I don't know, an English lesson or a science lesson or whatever, that's another way of putting it in there. So yeah.
Oh, I think that's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Rowena, did you have anything else to add about anything we've said so far?
Yeah, I think what I'd like to add is also it brings the class together. So you have your people that really know the subject well, have done their reading and know the topic, and then you've got the really, the musical ones that want to create the beat or just add a riff, and you've got the ones that are really good at presenting, and everyone can have their role within it. So it kind of brings it to life and everyone kind of feels empowered because they've had their part to play. So I think that's, great for the classroom.
Yeah. Let's just keep kicking it around. Wayne, anything else?
Yeah, I want to actually hop on what Scarlet said. So, like with Dream Create Inspire Tour, we are intentional in bringing in literacy. So we make sure we have books from authors of color in the songwriting workshop where you go through and research based off of different phrases that you feel, like things that you're feeling. You then go through the books to try to find phrases that resonate with you. So we tie in, like she was saying, word association, but we tie in, we make sure to honor other forms of art and creativity from, people of color. And during these times, definitely honoring, Black creators in different aspects. So, yeah, I think that's important to show that music is just one way to connect, and digging into these other art forms.
Yeah, I agree with that. And what we sometimes do what I do in my lessons as well is bring in books or poetry. So I had the kids writing a poem based on a Maya Angelou poem, and they created a song from that. They took the inspiration, and sometimes we were like, if there's a word or a phrase or a sentence that inspires you, include that in the song, get it going. And just the kids then had such a deeper understanding of the poetry itself, or whatever it was, or the book, or whatever it was, because we dissected it in a way that was fun for them. And like you said, you can remember song lyrics like that. And I remember doing my GCSEs, and somebody in my class was like, if I sang all of this, I'd remember it, because it's and I was like, we'll put it to I don't know, a Rihanna beat, and sing it to Umbrella. And we were like, oh my God, that's such a good way to remember stuff. So that's just another way of bringing all the worlds together and just making education as a whole fun. And just music has such a huge helping hand in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness, education is fun. Did you just say that, Scarlett? Are we allowed to do that? I think we can, right?
I do have to I am an absolute little boffin. I was the Hermione Granger of my year at school, so anything to do with school, I was like, me, please.
Yep. Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, I can sympathize with that. I was a little bit of that kid too. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. To kind of turn the conversation just a little bit here. And by the way, I love how we just bounced all of that around and just brainstormed all of these ways that music and songwriting can be used for assessment and for learning. I feel like we could just continue to kind of pass this around over and over and over again. We could come up with even more ideas. But one thing I thought we might talk about is how the connection between songwriting and identity. And you think about how, in the K-12 environment and even into higher education, that's a big time for forming your identity. And I was joking in another session. I'm like, man, I just turned 40 and I feel like I'm still sort of trying to figure out my identity. So that doesn't really go away, And I really feel like the classroom, no matter what the subject or what the content area, the classroom is a place where you're around a whole bunch of other students. And identity is kind of like the quiet reality among the entire group, is that you're in with people who are similar to you or different from you, and you're all trying to kind of figure out who you are and how you fit in the world. And it seems to me, again, just as someone who appreciates listening to music on the radio, it seems to me like songwriting can play a really important role in all of that, whether it's tied to academics or just helping a kid find their place in their world. And I wondered if anybody wanted to take that and, kind of riff on that idea.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I totally agree. The kids that I teach are from different backgrounds, different ages, and a lot of them, and I can sympathize with it. Like you were saying, you're in a class with people who are similar to you, or you could be completely different. And I was quite badly bullied at school, and my taste in music was very different. And my outlet was creating my own music where no one could judge me, because it's such a personal thing. I think that's what kids love when they are writing songs and they get to say exactly they want to say. And it's kind of like, it's a separate thing from them, so no one can judge it. But in those moments in their songwriting lessons or music lessons, they can be exactly the person they want to be, and they can say it through song. So, and sometimes people like to be very brazen and upfront about it, but sometimes it's kind of like reading between the lines almost. And I feel like I said, it's kind of like a therapy. It's finding your own feet, finding your own voice, and songwriting allows you to do that. And there's so many artists nowadays, young blood, or even like when you look at Harry Styles, or like if people are struggling with like gender identity, there are so many people out there now that are not afraid to talk about it. So I feel like music is even more crucial than it ever has been for people finding who they want to be. And just even if they want to write rock music and they're scared to like say they like that in a class where everyone just likes pop, they can go away and create their own music and be in their own world, and that's just, it's a safe environment for them. And I just think it just all helps with them finding their feet and finding their confidence, and then eventually being able to be who they want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rowena, I wanted to kick this to you too, because I can imagine that within your work in Song Academy, I bet the identity piece, and you take this and you tell me, but I would imagine that's probably a big part of why you wanted to do this in the first place.
Yeah, I think definitely. And I think in education, I think the kids are thinking their reputation, you know, it's not the education they're getting. It's, you know, what's their reputation like with their peers. And I think when my daughter, who was Matilda, who's now 18, and she was around 8 at the time, she wrote a song out of the blue. And it was the fact that I was listening to her, and I sort of took time to really be with what she had to say. And that's where, you know, the spark in her eye, and kind of, you know, she stood tall because, you know, this was something that was really important to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Wayne, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a phrase that I try to live by. Is if you have a voice, tell your story, because it's somebody with your story doesn't have a voice. So the act of being able to express yourself musically for a young person and an older person allows you to not only speak your truths, but open up that window for other people to look in the mirror and see their truths. So that's the power, is that it's like while you're identifying and trying to find your identity and your place in the world, other people who are resonating with these pieces connect to that. So once again, it's that connectivity that comes from, you know, examining yourself that lives forever. Like, it's not one that stops right now, right? I mean, like, we still are listening to records and stories that have, you know, spanned it 5-6 generations. So that's the great thing about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I totally agree with you on that. Okay. So we were talking earlier about how songwriting can fit in the classroom, and we came up with a whole bunch of really great ideas there. And what I liked about these were, you know, these weren't things that are going to take like months and months to do, you know? So what if we're speaking to the educator who has been listening to you, you know, now for a little while, and they're going, okay, I feel this. This is the kind of thing that I want to start doing more of, but I don't have very much experience in this, you know, in songwriting, in, you know, like, I don't know how to lay down a beat. I don't know how to like come up with the words. I don't know how to do any of this stuff, but I know this is important to my students. I wondered if you could talk to that teacher and either give them the encouragement, or maybe just give them a couple of tools they can put in their tool belt to empower them to bring this kind of work to their classroom. Does anybody want to take that? Or not?
Oh, my bad. I can take it. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll zoom in. I'll hop in for it. Okay, let's do this. So for the educator, so I'm speaking specifically to the educator right now. What I would say is the first thing you need to do, y'all, is talk to your students to see what they listen to, right? Like, what genres do they listen to? What songs do they listen to? Develop a playlist. Like, so, hey, put the songs that you like into this playlist, and let them be as open as possible. So don't restrict their playlist based off of what your ears do, right? And then what I would say is, hey, these are principles in my class. Yo, how would you teach that with your favorite artist in mind? Like, what would they say? How would they talk about this? Right? So just opening up that idea of it, right? And then I would go back and think about the hooks in your life that resonated with you in that place, and then thinking of like how I would be able to incorporate that. So like, you then put your songs into the playlist so they can hear like musically where you are, right? I think that's a great start at starting to integrate principles, you first got to understand what your students are listening to. You can't assume what they're listening to. And you have to also then be vulnerable and put what you listen to in there as well, too, to start the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Very good. Rowena, go ahead.
Well, also, I guess you can ask them, what song, if you wrote a song, what would you write it on? What's important to you? And, start the whole conversation about, what could they write? And then there's lots of techniques that we covered, and actually Scarlet wrote on, object writing to sort of get all the ideas down and kind of connect a lot of thoughts and, start the songwriting process. But I think it's recognition to the pupils that it is possible to write a song, and it could be heard on the radio, and you can start the process now. And there are a few tips, there are a few pointers about song structure, and there's some tips of how to write a song. But it really comes from each individual. What do they want to write about? What's important to them?
Yeah. And I think if they're struggling with like, oh, I don't know, because I have had that a lot in my lessons with the kids, like, I don't know what I want to write about. I'm like, okay, well, pick your favorite song now or your favorite song of all time, take a section of it and rewrite it in your own words. Because songwriting, every song has been written a million times before. Do you know what I mean? We've got 10 billion love songs and heartbreak songs, etc. But the thing that makes it special is your words and how you say it, because your voice is the most important thing. So that's something else I like to do with the kids if they're really struggling. And then that sparks a whole charade of everything. And then there might be one line and they're like, oh, like I could write my song based on this. And you're like, great, carry on. And it just, again, like I think really harping on to, like, as if I was the teacher, I would keep saying to the kids, there's no right or wrong way. Everything is you. And all I'm going to do is just support and encourage and like help decorate like the cherry on the cake, basically.
Yeah. That makes me think of all of the artists that are out there, and you hear them in interviews and they say, they get asked, who was your inspiration? And it's usually not just one person. It's usually a sprinkling of several. And Scarlet, you were talking about how you can take that one little section and rewrite it. And that seems to me like that's not a very threatening barrier of entry. Like you don't have to come up with something brand new, out of the air. Because the reality is, I think in lots of creative outlets, we have influences from different places, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's like the artist who goes into the art museum and sits down with a canvas and tries to paint the greats because they're trying to figure out how that worked, and then they try to figure out how that fits into their voice, right?
Yeah, totally. And I just think that everyone else is taken, so you'll always be just the best version of yourself. Just try and do that, and you're not going to be copying anyone. Like you say, it's not a threatening, scary experience, right? Because your words and your view on it will be different from the way I would write it. So it's kind of like everything's going to be special and unique.
Yeah, it's like how many people have sampled Lottie Dottie, like little bits of it, right? It shows up everywhere, Yeah. So I wanted to kind of turn this. We've been talking a lot about the classroom in particular. I wanted to touch on all of your backgrounds within songwriting, and just wanted to ask you, from those backgrounds, what are some of the lessons that you've learned from songwriting? Some of the tips, some of the strategies. If someone is trying to do that work, whether professionally or as an amateur, what are some of those things that apply in songwriting that you learn in songwriting that might be able to be applied in life or in the classroom or in learning or something like that? Just kind of give us like sort of like a master class in songwriting, and, maybe the teachers are able to apply it over or something. Wayne, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll start. So I would say what I love, and I think Scarlett talked about it in the beginning, is no right or wrong way to write a song. So the idea of it's not a sprint to a destination to happen right now. Like how I wrote a song this morning may be different than how I write a song in 2 weeks. So the constant rechecking of like how I'm setting up my day in order for creativity to hit me, right? Like, so it may be going on a walk, right? Like I know I can tell you this, if you and this is only speaking for myself. I only speak for myself. If I'm gonna say, yo, I need to write a song at what time is it now? Like almost 7:36 a.m. my time. So if I'm like, yo, at 7:40 when I get off of this, I'm gonna write a hit record between this window and this in 40-minute time. It's not gonna happen, yo. Like, but if I structure my day to say, hey, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna walk, I'm gonna listen to a guru of the month, I'm gonna maybe listen to an audio book, I'm gonna look at the trees differently than I've ever done. I'll make a joke with my daughter. I'll do all of these different type of things to then open up these little pockets of how I looked at something differently. Creativity seems to funnel through that, right? And then it just, with the right marriage of the right beat or the right time, it all comes together. So it's taking me sometimes, I would say 5 months to write one song, and it's also taking me 2 minutes and 30 seconds to write other songs. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think if anything correlating or translating over to education is, trust that the process changes, and trust that there is no right or wrong way to do it. Just allow yourself spaces for creativity to flourish.
I love that.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think it's also really important when you are writing a song, like it's best always to write about what you know, what you see, and how you feel. Because like I had a kid talking about like they wanted to write a really crazy random song, and I was like, do you know anything about it? And they were like, no. And I was like, okay, well, we can try, but I don't feel like you can give 110% of yourself to the song purely because you're not old enough, you haven't done that in life, or this hasn't happened to you, etc. And we got a little way through it, and then the child was like, actually, you know what, there is one bit of truth that I know about this certain subject, can we write about that? And it was like, yeah, let's go. And then the creative like gates just open. And like Wayne said, sometimes it can take 2 minutes to write a song, sometimes it can take 10 million years to write a song, and either way is totally fine. And you can keep coming back to it and chipping away, and you might think you finished the song and then come back to it and go, actually, like when you proofread an essay, maybe I'll just change this little section of it, and then it gets even better. So I just think it's always evolving, and you can always improve on things. So don't be scared that it's not finished right away. You can take your time, and it's not, like you said, it's not a sprint.
Yeah.
Right. Rowena, do you have anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd say that it's more of a journey. It's like step by step, see how it evolves. I agree absolutely with Wayne. The creativity will flow. It's normally it's the individual that's blocking it. So I think write loads of songs on different styles, about different things, and never write the big hits. Just write a song on a particular thing you want to say, and then write another one. And also I think I'd say, you don't have to do it on your own. I think sometimes young people think they've got to write the best song themselves, but actually if you're collaborating with others, that's when the magic happens, as you're bouncing ideas off and relating different things, and ideas are colliding, and you just get something magical out of it, whether it's lyrically or just musically playing a riff. Someone goes, oh, I like the idea of that, and then they play something else, and the whole thing just comes together very naturally. It's not forced. There are a few techniques that you can put into play to help the process, but it's collaborate with everyone around you. And there are kids in your classroom that you can just play songwriting with, and write some really great songs.
Yeah, absolutely. Wayne, do you have anything to add to that?
The collaboration piece, because I think I just want to say that that is essential, man, because in collaboration, what you're doing is taking your identity, you're taking your culture, and you're being vulnerable and opening up for someone else to bring their culture and their identity there. And this melting pot of all of that makes the dopest ideas. See what I'm saying? So for every Drake, there's a 40 right there. For every Jimmy Jam, there's a Terry Lewis right there. Like whatever generation you grew up in, the greats collaborate and they come up and tell a story, and the different sides and perspectives come that way. So I would say that translates into your learning process. So since we're speaking to educators, setting up a virtual classroom or a classroom that allows the collaboration between, students from different walks of life and different skill sets to merge and blend and become better.
Right, right. Rowena?
Yeah, and I think it's so easy now to collaborate with, kids across different countries. It's with the technology we have. We did a little project with Soundtrack where we put different kids that entered the Young Songwriter competition. There were kids in Australia or America, parts of Europe, and we teamed them up and said, look, write a song. And they used the Soundtrack technology to share ideas. And, they were thrilled that they were, connecting with a peer in a different country and writing a song together. So yeah, with technology, it's so easy to collaborate with kids around the world. And it's so exciting, I think, for young people to be doing that.
Yeah. And isn't it kind of amazing, definitely with, audio and music, we have this ability to collaborate with the technology that we have, but just in general, you think about when you pull people together from all of these different places and they have experiences from wherever they live and whatever they've been through, and all of a sudden we can start pulling those perspectives together in one collaborative space, unlike anything that we have ever had. I start to think about what we can do with technology these days when it comes to things like this, and it starts to make you realize how special a time we're living in. I don't know. I just kind of geek out about it whenever I think about it that way, So as I think through the minds of some of the educators that might be watching this, I know for me in particular, I can see all sorts of applications as to what I did teaching high school Spanish, but I know one thing that I'm sort of lacking in is some of the technical elements, of writing songs, like, how do you structure it? What are some of the ways that I don't know, some of those techniques, those are some things that I'm really lacking in. And I think it would be fantastic for us to just kind of kick that around and see if you had any suggestions for, different tips or strategies or anything that educators could employ and their students can employ. So Scarlet, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, happy to. So first of all, don't be scared. It's not a scary thing. I think I look at songwriting when I'm teaching it, like with the song structures, kind of like planning an essay almost. So you have individual sections. So we start with our verse. Why do we have a verse? Because we're telling chapter 1 of our story. Then we move on to a pre-chorus, which is where we want to try and build some tension. So the listener is still engaged. We're carrying on with the same lyrical themes, but we're building on them. So if it was a song for my best friend, I could say, okay, verse 1 is where I met her and our first day out. Pre-chorus could be, all the things that she made me feel when I first met her. So she was funny, she was kind, she was caring. And then I'm building that tension so that I get to my chorus section where we have the big, nice release and the audience. You don't want to simplify it, but that's the section that they're going to want to remember because, my dad might not be the biggest Katy Perry fan, but he can go away and sing the section of Raw because it's been broken down so simply that anyone can just consume it. And within our chorus, you're hammering home the main message of your song. So if it was for my best friend, I'd be like, oh, you're the best, you're the best, you're the best. Obviously in a little bit more of an interesting way. And then we move on to our verse 2. So how should we look at that? We don't want to move away too far from what we've been talking about, but maybe think about the time. So maybe I could be talking about now how our relationship is in the present day, like what we did yesterday. Oh, we went sunbathing in the park. Then usually to make music a little bit easier, we usually copy over the pre and the chorus, but you can change your pre-chorus, but it's just easier if we copy them over. After our second chorus, we go to somewhere we call it a middle 8, but I know in America they call it a bridge section, so whatever works for you. So maybe if your song's been positive throughout, maybe this is where you can have some little doubts coming in just to change up the feel of it. So, are we going to be best friends forever? Do you look at me as your best friend, etc., etc.? Or if it's been, a sad song, like Adele will write amazing heartbreak songs, and then in her middle 8/bridge will be like, hey, next time I'll be braver, I'll be stronger, I can be my own savior. So it's nice to change the flow and the tone of the song. And then you finish on another chorus, which again, we can just copy. But I think what's also really cool is if you write down each section and you plan it like an essay. So we call that a song map. So you're not writing the lyrics, you're just planning what you're going to say. So like I said, like verse 1, I will say where I met my best friend. Pre-chorus, why I think she's great. Chorus, I love you, I love you, I love you. Things like that. So just breaking it down. And obviously kids will be used to doing that when they have to plan essays anyway, but it just makes it fun. And it's kind of like a little checklist that they can refer back to and be like, have I covered that? Or have I gone off on a tangent? Because sometimes within songwriting, I know I can try and make 3 songs fit into one. And it's kind of like, let each of them live their best life. And if I follow a little bit more of a structure, then it's easier. And then the more you do it, the easier it gets, because obviously practice makes perfect.
Yes, absolutely. That's so cool. See, that's one side of it that I didn't even realize. The song map, like you were saying, it's like, you're right. There's a lot of similarity to that. I guess in some ways writing is writing, and they just have, different forms in some ways.
So can I say something to that real quick? Mm-hmm. So you can substitute chorus for hook as well too. So like we utilize in our songwriting workshops the hook. So the part where she was talking about the chorus, we like to tend to make that your mantra, like whatever, like self-affirmations in there, or whatever you want someone to be able to say from 8 years old to 88, right? And then another thing we do is like she was talking about in terms of verse, like making sure that whenever you're ending your verse or your pre-chorus, having that be your dopest line. Like, okay, I'm setting this all up to keep you intrigued, to get you right to the place where everybody's going to remember this part of the song. So that's kind of how we do it, just to add on to that.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's great. And Wayne, one of the things that is some of the examples that you've been given here, including that right there, as we were talking about songwriting being, in many ways, just another form of writing. All of this makes me think back to the times that we're living in right now. A lot of educators are wrestling with what remote learning looks like. We had a lot of it in the spring. There's a lot of folks that are doing it, or a hybrid version, kind of like an in-person online version of it. And it's kind of given a lot of people a different perspective on education and the way that we do things. And it's kind of making us, some of us anyway, take a second look at what we've always done and think, man, is this really relevant right now? And I wanted to ask you, Wayne, about that. Like, do you think that, songwriting in general, or really even, we can go bigger and just talk about the way that we're doing assignments in education right now. Do you think that changes in light of the COVID era that we're in?
Yeah. So what I think is that music always evolves before education does, right? Like just on the scope of things, right? So like usually it's tech first, and then music then updates based off of tech, and then all the way down at the end is usually education, right? So saying that to say, I'll speak on the tech and music bridge. What I love about this era is you have platforms like Soundtrap where we're able to write in real time together. So like, if I come up with the idea, or a student comes up with the idea in one of our sessions and they put it in Soundtrap, we can then have real feedback right then and there. So I can hop in and say, oh, but I love, can you do this verse over again this way? Or another student will hop in and say, hey, I decided because you did this verse, I want to sing this melody underneath of it. And it's this real time being able to work on a session together without having to, you do one part and then I have to wait to then do my part. I can do it simultaneously within structures like Soundtrap. So that's what I love about this time, is that technology has allowed us to collaborate at a faster time. And then also on Soundtrap, there's like a place where you can have your video on, so I can see you, and give you pointers, or a student can see a musician hopping in. And then what I also love is that you can then bring in different musicians into your session to give the perspective of professionals that, gig and play shows and have extensive catalogs to then give real feedback to students really quickly. So it's dope.
Nice. Scarlet?
I also just think that technology, like using Soundtrap, kids that don't play instruments can play instruments through their computer. Right. So it makes everything, there are no boundaries anymore. Like I'm lucky enough that I had piano lessons as a kid, but lots of kids don't have the luxury of being able to have lessons, or their school doesn't provide it. They can go home. They don't even have to be on a laptop. They can be on their phone. They can be on like an iPad, even though there are other tablets available, but they can be on whatever they want to be on. and they can be a self-sufficient functioning musician who can play the drums, who can play guitar, who can play piano, who can play saxophone, or whatever crazy stuff they want to throw in there. So I think COVID has been eye-opening, and I think it's even made me push myself a bit more. Like, I've become more of my own producer, sat at home, because I haven't been able to get into the studio. So everyone can just keep evolving and learning.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. All right. Well, I tell you what, this conversation has been so fascinating. We have covered a multitude of topics today. We've kind of been all over the place, which has been fantastic. So what I do want to do here at the end is ask you all the same question that we've kind of been asking everyone, because it does play right back to the heart and soul of our summit. And so it's this question: what can we do to help students use their voices to change the world? Whatever your take is, whatever your thoughts are on that, I'd love to hear it from all of you. And I'd like to kick it over to Rowena first to start us off. You get to go first.
Thank you. Well, I'd say encourage them to write songs, to get their voices heard, to express themselves and connect with others, and find their tribes. Be an activist on what they really want to, how they want to shape the future, and step up and be courageous and write songs and tell the world what they want.
Mm-hmm. Love that. That's great. Very well said. Scarlet, how about you?
I think we should encourage, nurture, and inspire, and just reiterate that the best version of you is you, and your voice is as important as Joe Blogs over there. Do you know, there are no boundaries or limits to who you can be. Just find the confidence within yourself.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Very good. Man, you all are bringing it with this question. This is fantastic. All right, no pressure, Wayne. All right, man, so you're up. Go ahead.
That's dope. So what I would say is making sure that you're letting students know that not only does their voice matter, but they're the only ones to be able to use their voice how they have their voice, and that their voice, if they stay authentic to themselves, transcends time, space, and generations, and that what them just expressing themselves is actually opening the door for generations later to be able to express themselves. So it's important that they know that empowering them to empower others that haven't even been born yet, and music does that.
Mm-hmm. That's multiple times that you've brought that idea up. That's something that I think has been a big inspiration to me during this conversation. It's almost like you're saying that you get to spread your legacy through the music that you create, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you think of Nipsey, right? So like Nipsey, what he did in the time he was here, think of how long that lineage is gonna impact music. And that happens with what Pac did. That happens with, think about what Quincy did. Like Quincy Jones starting with the first record he did was with Ray Charles, all the way up to, Miles Davis, all the way up to, Kool Moe Dee, all the way up to this. So he has this lineage of him being in the Travis Scott video, like a couple of months ago. So how long that lasts in your imprint, but that comes from this lineage of being able to express yourself in different times. So that's all I want to I said it 18,000 times, but it gives, young people a chance to see how powerful they are with it.
Yeah. I love it. I think that's an excellent place to leave that conversation right there. That's great. So as we wrap this up real quick, if folks have been watching this and they're going, man, I would like to learn more from this person. I'd like to, follow this person. I want to see what they're up to. What kind of things can you all share with us, whether it's, social media or a website or like things that you're working on or whatever? What are some things that you can leave with everybody? Wayne, let's go with you, and then we'll go around the screen that way.
Bet. So you can follow us on social media, on IG, on Facebook, at Dream Create Inspired Tour. You can go to our website, dreamcreateinspiredtour.com, if you want more info on songwriting workshops. We do songwriting workshops. We also have outlets and spaces for those in the songwriting workshops to express themselves in open mics and visual mixtapes. So if you want to learn more about that, please go to our website.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Scarlett, how about you?
You can, Rowena will talk about the Song Academy stuff, but
Sure.
you can follow my artist profile, which is at Hedara Music, which is Hedara. I post a lot of videos of my own music up there and sessions that I'm in. So like the behind the scenes, if you will, of being in a real life studio with other songwriters, producers, etc. So yeah, that's how you can find me.
Excellent. Very good. Rowena?
Yeah, I'd love them to follow our website, so songacademy.co.uk. And we're all on the Instagram and social media as well. And I guess also watch out for the Young Songwriter 2021, which is next year, 1st of February, we take entries. So, encourage all your students to, send in their songs or write their first song.
Excellent. Excellent. Oh my goodness. You all, I've just got to say, all three of you, you are an inspiration, and it has been a pleasure to get to spend an hour with you and to hear from you. So again, thank you so much for joining this and for being a part of this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say thank you for our viewers for watching this and for being a part of the Soundtrap Education Summit. And we will see you on another video. Take care.
Deuces.
See ya.